Hello, lovelies. I am here for another episode of my booktube. I am going to try to upload weekly, but last week kind of got away with me with the holidays, and then my work schedule picked up a whole bunch because everybody was coming back from vacation and wanted to see the therapist. So today what I want to do is I want to go through my bookshelves and I want to pull out any of the authors that are the big offenders, because when I'm filming booktube content, I don't want to promote certain authors who have behaved badly or are anti some of the communities that I care about a lot. LGBTQ plus rights are very important to me on a personal but also on an advocacy level. So obviously J.K. Rowling is a no-go. And then a couple other authors. Now I will say, I think each of us has to make that decision for ourselves. I saw somebody a long time ago saying that we each have to do the math for ourselves as to what we put our time and energy into, because there's almost no way to live in this world and not contribute to certain things that are harmful to different communities. For example, allegedly, Chick-fil-A donates to non-trans policies and anti-trans policies, so I don't eat there. Plus I'm a vegetarian, but before that I was boycotting them, allegedly. Dutch Brothers supports taking land from indigenous people, so I don't drink coffee there. But there are certain things that I do contribute to that I know that they're not the best, but there's not really a great way to live right now without contributing to some things that are bad for some communities. But in my booktube, I really don't want to have some of the big ones in there for things that could contribute to upsetting people or making them want to buy the content from authors that I don't think we should be supporting, at least firsthand. I think there is something to be said for, if you would like to consume content. Again, we'll use J.K. Rowling as an example. The Harry Potter world is extremely important to a lot of my clients who experience trauma in their teenage years, especially ones that are in their like late 20s, early 30s, and into their like late 30s and 40s. That tends to have been their escapism. And I think it's very unfair to judge people for needing that escape, especially in this day and age where the world is on fire. And to discredit the fact that a lot of the trauma community escaped through Harry Potter and that world became very important to them. So I will say, I think there's nothing wrong with, if the Harry Potter world was really important to you and you're comfortable with it, buying those books secondhand. Totally makes sense to me. But I don't want to ever be part of the system that's broken and contributing to other people finding those authors through my content. Not that I'm in any way planning to be a big channel, but just in case, I don't want people to come across that and me give the wrong message, especially being a therapist, and mental health is really important. The biggest offender that you're going to see as I take these things off my shelves is Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman was my favorite author for a very long time, and his books were very powerful to me. Ocean at the End of the Lane, for example, I used to recommend actually as a grief book because it is quite beautiful. And so I have a few special editions of Ocean at the End of the Lane. Unfortunately, again, I have to use allegedly because we're on booktube. Neil Gaiman has some pretty serious accusations against him that seem to be pretty founded by several different women of doing some of the most negative things that you can do to a woman. And I cannot support him any longer. However, the money's already been spent. I already own the books, but I don't want them on my bookshelves to show off to people. I just don't think that's fair to people who've experienced trauma or people wanting to buy his content because they see the cool special editions I have. So he's going to be another one. Can't be on my shelf. And then, of course, Terry Goodkind. A very long time ago. I think the series is called the Sword of Truth series. It also got turned into like a one-season TV show. But anyway, he wrote a whole book series, and the first one being The Wizard's First Rule. And I read like 3 or 4 books of it, and then it just became not for me. And then I thought to myself, after I went through a lot of hardships in my life, I went back and I bought them, again, used secondhand. I bought a couple of them. I'm like, oh, I'll give the series another try because I do really want to engage with like high fantasy stuff. And then I did some reading online, and I found out what an awful person he is, especially with the world on fire today. So he can't be on my bookshelves either. Now, all this to say, you may see some on here that you're like, oh, this author or that author. I have to do what I can here. But those are going to be my big authors that I take off of here. I feel free to discuss this in the comments too, but we need to do that very respectfully because each series and each author is going to mean something to somebody else. Like I said, Neil Gaiman, that was one of the hardest things. I cried more when that came out than anything else because he had been so important to me, both at a personal level, at a clinical level, and just emotionally really spoke to me as an author and his works and his concepts. And he's the one that got me into magical realism. So that's going to be hard. Now, one author on here that I am keeping on my shelves, I know he's controversial, but he does happen to be an author that I really enjoy his novels, is Murakami. Murakami is a Japanese author. He's quite famous, and he is magical realism as well. So it's where the fantasies, they take place in our current world, but there's something just slightly to the left, and then there's some magic elements to it, but it still is very much feels like it's based in our current world that we live in. Murakami has come under fire over the years because he does have a bit of a misogynistic way of writing women. His female characters, a lot of people don't like them, and I get that. I want to validate that. For me personally, just for me, I like Murakami's works. I find him to be a great author. I do know that he comes from a different culture than I do, and I want to be sensitive to that. And it's a culture that I know a little bit about, but not a lot of it about. And so I'm going to be very careful when talking about it. The way that he writes female characters, personally for me, I find the way that he writes them to be part of the plot line and part of a statement on the way that men can view women sometimes. And I actually think that's quite powerful. So again, each person's going to have their own feelings about Murakami. I'm not here to tell you how to feel. You will see Murakami on my shelves. He is staying on my shelves because for me personally, I like his work. I don't see the problems with his female characters that other people do, while also recognizing and honoring that other people do see that, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. Just for me personally, again, the math for me, I like this author. I think he's great. I think there's something to be said for reading books from different cultures and understanding the time frame in which they were written. He started writing, I think, in the early 80s. And so, of course, his novels have some dated things in them. And also just respecting that other cultures view and treat women and men and the whole concepts of women and men and non-binary and all of that. They treat them differently than in my ethnocentric perspective, living in the United States and being a white person in the United States. So I do think there is something to be said about the commentary from people on the way that he writes women tends to come from white people that I have seen. Now, I'm not saying that's not all of them, but a lot of the people making those commentaries are white people living in the US that make those comments, or white people living in like the UK that make those comments. And to me, it's not my place to make that commentary, not having lived in that culture and understanding that culture fully. So just want to put that out there for any of you who will see Murakami on my shelves and will see them staying there. I will talk briefly on this, but I really don't want to, again, give too much airtime to Neil Gaiman. But one book here that we're taking off the shelf is Stardust. You can see that this is a beautiful special edition of Stardust. It used to be my favorite fairy tale because I'm not a traditional Disney fairy tale girly. This one was really beautiful for me. I've read it a couple of times. I've seen the movie. Oh, and obviously a beautiful special edition of it. And it's up here and not my downstairs bookshelves because I had thought to myself, you know, even after everything came out, I never did get to read the special edition because I had already pre-ordered it and it had arrived. And then by the time I was going to read it, the news broke. And so I've never gotten to read this beautiful special edition with illustrations, which were done by a different illustrator, you know, and that person deserves to not be taken down with Neil Gaiman. So it's hard for me because I haven't been able to actually read this. I picked it up several different times trying to say, okay, I can separate the author and the art, which I think some people can. I thought I was one of those people. And every time I pick up this novel, even right now, I feel really gross. Touching it, I feel gross. Looking at it. So for now, it's going to have to also go in an away pile and maybe even boxes. I might put it into storage along with some of my other problematic books because I'm not ready to get rid of it. I know a lot of people are purging, and I get that too, but I'm not ready to purge. I am ready to get them all off my shelves, and I just need to recognize that, at least for now, being a pediatric trauma therapist is one of my specialties. Being a pediatric trauma therapist, working with a lot of women who have experienced trauma and men, given what he's accused of doing, I'm just not able to read the material right now, which makes me actually very sad. I almost feel tearful talking about this right now because it had been so important to me. So yes, he's going to have to go off of there, and we're just going to look through these. I have another bookshelf over here, and then I have some bookshelves downstairs, like 2.5 bookshelves. I do have one that I'm not going to show, which is behind me here. It's like my nightstand / bookshelf. It's kind of messy, but also it does have my one purchase of secondhand Harry Potter books. It's like a trunk, the trunk edition that had all the hardcover first edition remakes in it, and I did get that from Half Price Books, used. So, but again, I don't want to bring any attention to that author. She's obviously horrible, but the series again did mean something to me, so I had picked it up a while ago. But I don't want to show that here because she's obviously ad nauseum been discussed as being terrible. I don't know how much Neil Gaiman I actually have up here, and I will try to switch camera angles to get the Terry Goodkinds off of this shelf. You can also just see that I've kind of got a lot of things going on here. Something that you will probably see is important to me is one of my hyperfixations is books. Another hyperfixation is crochet, so you will see a lot of my crochet animals in my booktube. I do tend to crochet tons of animals, and then I don't have enough space for all the things that I make, so they end up on my bookshelves sometimes. People ask me why I don't sell them. This thing was 25 pieces, took me so long to make this thing. I could never sell it for what time amount that I put into it, and I do get somewhat attached to them, so you will see some of these as we go through these. Oh, here's another Neil Gaiman. This is Ocean at the End of the Lane. I have a couple editions of it. So Ocean at the End of the Lane, that one's gonna have to go. We do have Good Omens. This one I feel a little mixed on because Good Omens was written by Terry Pratchett. May he rest in peace, one of the greatest. He wrote Discworld. To my knowledge, unless somebody would like to correct me, but to my current knowledge, Terry Pratchett was actually an amazing human being, and his Discworld series, while I have not read all of them, I've read some of them, and they're quite good. They're hilarious, they're easy to consume, but the world is massive also at the same time. And given as many books as he's written in that series, they still feel very new and fresh, each one that you read, and the characters feel very well developed, which sometimes with these series that drag on and on and on, that's not the case. I feel mixed because Neil Gaiman and him co-authored it, and I think I actually have both colors of this book, maybe. Oh yeah, I do. Here we go. But I think for the sake of this being booktube, and for the sake of not wanting anybody to feel like I'm supporting these authors and not giving them too much airtime, I will take these off. But any Terry Pratchett's that are not related to Good Omens and his writing with Neil Gaiman, those can stay, obviously, because Terry Pratchett, again, to my knowledge, amazing human. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I hope not. And, I did a long time ago used the Ender's Game. I don't know too much about it, but Orson Scott Card apparently is a terrible also human being, so I'm really not interested in advertising him either. I think he has the same problems as Terry Goodkind, not entirely certain, but to my remembrance. Again, feel free to correct me on any of this or add context for anybody in the comments, but Orson Scott Card cannot remain on there anyway. Let's see. I don't read a ton of romantasy, but if you guys see these special editions, this is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. It's a duology. Young adult, does have romantasy in it. I don't know. I love this series so much that for my birthday, I got the special editions. It's just a really good time. There's one scene in maybe the first one. It might have been the first one. There's one scene in there that I wasn't entirely certain consent was a little gray in one of the scenes. It seemed to work out okay, so I was okay with it, but just be warned, there is one scene in One Dark Window that I'm not entirely certain that it's 100% consensual, and mostly has to do with like I guess, a question of, can somebody give consent if they are under an influence of some sort? And how much consent can be given? I think that's going to be maybe a good discussion for me at some point, but otherwise, I liked this series, but I want to put that caveat out there. All right. That's all of that. This is kind of more of a vlog style, but I'm curious what you guys think of vlogs versus book reviews, both, neither, something. This is going to be a bit more of a vlog style. I do not know how my editor is going to cut it together. If you don't know, my 18-year-old is going to be my editor. We'll be editing some of this together. I'll have some say over it, but they are 18 and they understand this stuff so much better than me. So hopefully this gets edited in a way that is not too boring for you guys. Let's see. I think everything on this shelf looks okay. Now, there might be a chance I have to go back through here later and double check to make sure I got everything. Oh, this might be a hot take. I'm considering making a video on it. Comment down below if you think I should. The Twilight series, that it normalizes age gap romance, which is something you will hear me be very against on this channel. I do not like age gap romances. There's a difference between, you know, like a 30 and a 40-year-old being together. I mean, that's pretty grown-up people with life experiences. But when we're talking about a 16, 17, 18-year-old person with a 100-year-old vampire, werewolf, fae, I used to love fae fantasy. When you start to look at that, you start to realize that we're normalizing significant age gaps. And then when you hear it's coming from a perspective of trying to normalize older men being with younger women, it does become a little ick factor for me. And so I did re-listen to the audiobooks, which is rare for me also to do audiobooks. I can't do them normally unless I've already read the series. It's easier for me. I did do those audiobooks because I wanted to listen to them with fresh ears, and I realized that there are many things in the Twilight books, which I know this is probably a hot take for people, but there are some very abusive things and dangerous things romanticized in those novels that, as a pediatric therapist, I have concerns. And then I also think about, what does it look like when your kids see you reading these books? So if you have a daughter or a son who's young, or a non-binary pal who is young, and you are raising them and they're looking up to you and they're seeing you reading some of these novels that have a lot of toxicity, romanticized, you have a lot of violence, violence against women, age gap things, how much of a responsibility do I have when people see me reading that stuff? And for me, Twilight will not be a thing for me anymore. Again, I can make a video maybe if people are interested, but Twilight's going to stay on here for now, but just be very aware that I might actually take Twilight off, to be honest with you. It gave me that much ick. And I know that's very controversial, and I was what you would call a twihard back in the day, but not anymore. All right. Got my multiple different Lord of the Rings. This is going to be probably very embarrassing to say, but The Hobbit, I've read 3 times. I love The Hobbit. I have not actually read all of the Lord of the Rings yet. I have read the first one. I was not in good headspace when I read it. I was going through a depressive cycle, and it was just like a really bad time in my life. So I need to go back and reread that one, plus the other 2, because I think I will enjoy them much better nowadays. Okay. Oh, these are my Fugglers. They're Golem and Frodo and Gandalf. If you guys are fans. Oh, you know what? I just saw that I do have the Harry Potter script. Hold on. These are in no particular alphabetical order, I know. I realized that I have a couple Harry Potters down here that I did not remember people had gifted me. So I need to get anything J.K. Rowling off my shelves in general. Well, now I don't have enough room for the books I already had there. Oh well. Okay, we've switched our angle slightly. I'm over at the other bookshelf in my bedroom and kind of trying to look through here. One thing that I do have on here that I hadn't thought about was Piers Anthony. I have heard that he's not super great, and I do know that the way he wrote was very misogynistic retrospectively. So I no longer read Piers Anthony, but I don't know that he reaches the level of some of these authors behaving badly. I don't know enough, I think, about him as an author. I just know that his writing is very misogynistic, and some of that has to do with the time period he was in. Some of that has to do with, ingrained misogynistic tendencies. So I'm not really removing them yet, but I would very much value you guys in the comments letting me know if I should just cut him from the bookshelves as well. Anybody actually that you think we should. These are my special Aragon. I ordered them from Broken Bindings, not sponsored, but I wish they were. They are signed by Christopher Poloni. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. Aragon was a series that some people like it and some people are like, oh, it's just Star Wars. First of all, I've watched some Star Wars. My husband is a huge Star Wars nerd. I'm not the biggest Star Wars nerd. I like it well enough. It's not one of my hyperfixations as books, crochet, definitely hyperfixations, and horses. But for me, Star Wars was not something I grew up with. I grew up very isolated and in a conservative environment, so I was not exposed to many things growing up. Aragon came to me at just the right time. I want to say that I was a late teenager when I read them, and he's really what made high fantasy accessible for me. And again, I'm not sponsored by Broken Binding, but they make some of the most freaking beautiful books I've ever seen in my entire life. And this series particularly was gorgeous. I do wish they would have released Murtagh in this, because this is just the original 4 inheritance cycle. Murtagh is the one that he released more recently. It was kind of unexpected, but Broken Binding, to my knowledge, does not have one right now that I can get that would match all of these. But I did want to display them, and I do want to go through, and maybe one of my reading vlogs can be something on going back and rereading this series for the first time in, what would that be, 20 something years. And just rereading and being nostalgic for those things. And yes, I know that I should do a better job of organizing these things. I have series all over the place, different authors, like split up all over the place, and it drives my family nuts. I do know where everything is, or at least relatively where it is, and I have never been able to be bothered because I don't know how many books I have, but I have a lot of them that I've been collecting for many, many years, and I genuinely don't know how many I have, and it seems like an overwhelming task to sit there and alphabetize everything. And it would have to be according to author, just because consistency is important. All right. Oh, this is the Terry Goodkinds I mentioned. I did get a couple of them. Honestly, these ones I may just give back to Half Price Books because I'm just really not interested. Hearing some of the awful things he said, especially with what's going on in today's society. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about that on YouTube. However, you'll see that I'm a huge advocate for my clients and for minorities and for anybody that's being discriminated against of anything, any sort. And with everything going on today, Terry Goodkind was before his time of what's going on right now. And I'm just not okay with that. I'm not interested in you. So he can go. Okay, now we're downstairs at my other set of bookshelves. I'm going to be very honest with you. You can probably see my Christmas tree is still up. And yes, I know it's mid-January. I do get that. This is where I'm at with my life. So, I mean, I'm filming this in my Oogie Boogie hoodie, so hopefully you kind of got that this is my vibe. Hopefully you can still see. Okay, we're just going to go through and try to find those last little books that might be hanging out. And if I miss any, I'm just going to try to pull them off my shelf without y'all. But I thought this might be a good thing to kind of show you and just be honest about like where I think that mental health has its importance. Okay, so here's another Stardust. That one obviously has to go, unfortunately. And I think that's all of this one. Now, I know I have a few special editions that I need to grab out of here. I just don't know exactly which shelf that they are on, and I don't want to miss them. All right, we are working around the Christmas tree here. You can probably see that I am trying to make sure I don't keep my back to you guys. Oh, here's a J.K. Rowling. Again, somebody gave me the original screenplays. Yeah, original screenplay. Got to get those out of here. All right, so this one is the Sleeper in the Spindle. This was like a Sleeping Beauty remake or something, which was touted as, at the time, very good because it was LGBTQ+, and so of course I wanted to support that at the time. Things had not come out yet. So I do know there's one. Oh, here we go. Here's some of the Sandman series has to go. The only one that I'm not seeing that I know is on here is a special edition of Ocean at the End of the Lane. I think I actually ended up with 2 special editions, but the other one is in packaging because it's like a folio edition. Oh, here's a couple right here. Short stories of his. Oh my goodness, these are getting heavy. All right, we'll set these down here. For some reason, I am just not seeing the special edition of Ocean at the End of the Lane, which I know should be on these shelves. Oh, here's a special edition of Neverwhere. I'm telling you guys, I had so many of his special editions. Really, really sucks. Not only for me as a reader, obviously for the women affected. It just really sucks when somebody that did mean a lot to you did something as terrible as he did. So I do not see off the top of my head. Oh, here it is. See, I knew I wasn't going crazy. So this is the last one that I need to take off of there. If I do find any other ones, I definitely will get those off in the meantime. And then let me know what y'all think about Piers Anthony and also the Twilight series in the comments, or any other series or authors behaving badly that you know of that you just think I should be aware of. I can't obviously vet every author all the time, and you know, there's a difference between making some bad choices in your life, which I've certainly done, lots of people have, and perpetuating violent crimes against people or advocating for harm for communities that I care about, such as LGBTQ+ and women and all that. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you like vlog style things, let me know. If you think that you would prefer more book reviews, let me know. I am going to be building this channel and trying a few different little things along the way to see what works, and I'll probably do a combination of things, but I'm very open to ideas. Thank you so much, lovelies, for joining me on this book unhaul, I guess it would be, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.